Hey, it's Rob. Welcome to Axel's Garage. We finally got the big dummies crank no start situation handled on the K5, and now, you know, it's the fall, but before, well, the fall's coming, it's beginning of September. Before the weather gets too cold, we want to do some of the things that we need to do outside so that we can get stuff done on it for them. So it's running good. I've been driving it back and forth to work every day, and now we want to finish some of the exterior stuff. So we're going to work on the front push paw grill guard, whatever you might call it. It's the military blazer style or pickup style push bar. It's the M1009 or whatever they call them. I got it probably in the title and in the description. But anyway, let me show you what it looks like. I think like they call it the M1009 or whatever the hell they call it. The one that you see on most of the military blazers and pickups. All right, we bought this with the bumpers. And you saw in previous videos we refinished the front bumper. So this we hadn't done anything with, and all I've done to it so far is I gave it a sanding with a Scotch-Brite wheel on a drill and got all of the bigger sections into some of the corners, whatever I could do with it with the drill on the wheel, just to give it a light sanding, remove any rust that was present in some of the spots where the paint had come off. But this paint that's on there is very durable. Whatever it is, it really sticks well and protects well. This thing is pretty old and it's not all rotted out like you would think it would be, being out in the weather its entire life. So now we're going to take it, we're going to wet sand it to get it in all the nooks and crannies and get it good and clean so we can give it a fresh coat of paint. Alright, so what I have here is my mother-in-law's old roasting pan that she was throwing away, and I thought it would be a great little just pan that I could use in the garage. I have a maroon Scotch-Brite pad and a green Scotch-Brite sponge thingy, and I'm soaking that. And I got some 600 wet dry, and I have a flexible sanding block. And what I'm going to do is wet sand it, and I'm probably just going to use the sandpaper. We got some dishwashing soap and water mixed in, and I'm going to use the sanding block, and I'm just going to give it a wet sand. Nothing crazy. What I'm looking to do, my goal here is just to scuff the surface and clean it. Just enough to make sure that the paint that we put on it adheres well and doesn't chip off. We haven't really decided whether we're going to paint this like a flat black or use a like a bed liner type of paint like we did the bumper. Bumper came out really nice. It's been wearing nice. It's very good with regard to its resistance to chip and sun fade and stuff. And we used Plasticoat brand, not Plasti Dip, Plasticoat brand truck bed liner in spray cans, and I've been using that on the Jeeps and on Robbie's K5, and it's actually been turning out really well and holding up really well when you paint it on nicely prepped metal. We did paint it on one of I think it was Amanda's bumpers, and we didn't prep the metal great, and we did have some spots that chipped off fairly easily. This thing is big and heavy, so having a table to work on would definitely help. I used the Scotch-Brite pad to get into some of the curves and corners that are tough to get into with the sanding block. Pretty much, you got to do it like section at a time, so I'm doing sides and surfaces that are facing up, and then when I flip it over, I'm going to do surfaces facing up into the sides just a little bit, just to make sure I got good coverage there. And you'll see, as you're doing it, you'll definitely see that you're going to start getting some green and yellow. It looks like there's a yellow primer underneath the green, and you'll know you're giving it a good scuff because you're going to see some of that green and yellow coming up onto your either sandpaper or Scotch-Brite. And you don't need to put a lot of force on it. Just a little bit of moderate force is all you need. Like I said, we're just putting some, you know, pretty much micro scratches into the paint that's already there, so that the new paint will bite. We really don't want to remove too much of the old paint, because whatever process and paint that they used when they built these things worked really well. So I'm going to continue on around, and I'll catch up with you when I'm ready to flip. Alright, so I'm pretty much done sanding, but one of the things that I did notice while I was doing it, just a helpful tip, is as you're going, when you start to get one and you're doing it, you can almost feel the resistance when you first start. And then a couple strokes in, maybe 5 or 6 strokes, you feel how it smooths out. So clean your paper off by dipping it back into the water and do it again. And when you feel that it's smooth like that, you know you're good. And depending on how rough or smooth everything is, you might even be able to hear it. And in a couple spots on these long stretches, I could hear the sandpaper, you know, doing its sanding thing. And then after 4 or 5 light strokes, that sound kind of mellowed out, which I know now it's smooth, and I got good bite in there because it's smooth. And you could see I got green and yellow gunk all over me. You could also see on the metal itself, you can see the residue. On the metal itself, you could see the residue from the sanding. And if I, you know, just dip a little bit wet on the finger and rub it on it, you could see all the green, hopefully I'm on camera, all the green paint coming off. So we know we bit into it plenty enough. If you're used to doing small paint projects like this, I mean, this is a no-brainer for you. So pretty much now what I have is everything sanded down. So what I'll do is I'm going to take the Scotch-Brite that's saturated in the dishwashing soap and water and give it just a good once over, making sure all those corners are free of any dirt or debris. And I'll go over the whole thing with the Scotch-Brite. And all this is just prep work, which is going to give you a better product in the end, or at least, you know, I'm not doing anything to smooth it out. If there's some chips in there, we're going to see those chips through the paint. It shouldn't be too noticeable the way this is going to be set up, and we're going to have lights attached to it and all kinds of stuff. So I'm not really concerned with how it looks as far as the smoothness of the paint. I mean, I want it to look halfway decent, but I'm not going for every little nick that's in this factory paint to smooth that out. I just want to make sure that my paint that I'm going to add to it is going to adhere well. So I'm going to wash this whole thing down, and with the Scotch-Brite paint, just to make sure I got anything off. I'm feeling with my hands as I'm going. Feel with your fingers, and make sure that there's no rough spots that you could feel. So once I'm done with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change out my water, and you can see on this it's dirty. So I'm going to change out my water, I'm going to clean out my pan, and I'm going to wash my sponge. I'm going to put some clean dishwashing soap in with a clean sponge in the pan, and I'm going to give it a good scrub to get it clean. Now, with the sanding's done, it's ready to be painted. Now we just need a clean surface to paint. We got the right texture on the surface so the paint will adhere. Any rust is removed. We're good. What we want to do is clean now. So the first step for me is I'm going to clean it with just some dish soap and water and get it all good and clean. And then once that's done, I am going to clean it with some acetone. That's right before I paint it. I give it a final wipe down with acetone, let it dry, and then I start hitting it with paint. Alright, so we got everything clean, washed down. I'm going to let it air dry. You could blow it off, you could wipe it down. It's your choice. I can't finish it now. I have to wait till the morning because I have a honey-do list to do today. So we'll continue this video tomorrow. It'll be dry, then we'll wipe it down with acetone, and we'll start getting it painted. Alright, well, it's the next day, and I'm finally getting back to this. So we left off with it being clean. And now I'm just going to rub it down with some acetone, white acetone, because I happen to have some on the shelf. You can use paint thinner, lacquer thinner, wax and grease remover, whatever you want to move. We're just trying to get all the any wax or grease residue, you know, fingerprints, stuff like that off of it so the paint adheres well. So I'm just giving it a good wipe. Clean rag. If you have a lint-free rag, use lint-free. And I'm going to go over the whole thing and give it a nice wipe. Alright, so normally what I would use in this situation is Eastwood's rust encapsulator, just to use it as a primer, to be an intermediary coat between the primer and paint that's on it and our top coat. I don't have any left, but I like to use on something that gets chipped. We know it's going to get chipped. We know it's going to get a little banged up. So I want my coats of paint to all be the same color. So I don't want to use a light primer on it, because when you chip it, you're going to see that light primer. When you chip all the way through the black, we're going to see this green. But I would use usually the rust encapsulator, which is black, so that if it chips through this and gets to the rust encapsulator, it's still black. Right now I'm going to use Eastwood's Extreme Chassis Black, because it is a very good chip resistance, and I'm going to use this as my primer, because you don't really need a primer here, and my top coat, because I don't know if I'm going to use the bed liner paint, but if I do use the bed liner paint, at least this is underneath it, it's black, so if the bed liner chips, it's still black underneath. We'll see how it comes out with just this, and maybe we're just going to go with that. So I do have it flipped over so that it's the front side down, and all I am concentrating on right now is painting the surfaces that are up facing me. And I'm going to do that, these thin surfaces from both directions, so that it gets the residual spray on the bars itself, which are this way, so that when we flip it over, we're going to make sure we got a good coating, because that's the part you're going to see. So this is really just to protect those metal portions that are facing me, which are like these big pieces, this flat bar, and the flat bar back here that it's off camera that you can't see, so that the back side has got a good coating of paint to protect it. I have found this chassis paint from Eastwood, the Extreme Chassis Black. I'm using it in satin. I found it to be very chip resistant, and it wears really well, so I think it'll work out good for this. I don't think I'm going to need to use the bed liner on it. I just have a feeling I'm going to like it this way. Well, we'll see. Ooh, I got a big nozzle clog here. Uh-oh, that's no good. There we go. Okay. Alright, so I'm up to coat 3. Pretty much you could see the first coat we're concentrating on the tops of these bars. Second coat is tops, you know, and let the fan hit a little bit of the side. So we came from both sides, and now this third coat, top, right? Top is the priority, and as much of the sides as we can get, so that when we flip it, we're going to have some overlap on the sides, and we'll get good coverage everywhere. But what we do need to make sure on this last coat, this third coat, is that the parts that are facing back are all coated well. Well, it's been the better part of a week, and we were able to let it dry for a couple of, life just got in the way, and the weather didn't always cooperate either. Like today it's real windy, so I couldn't paint when it was real windy. Temperatures, you know, it's September, so temperatures are going up and down, but I let it dry where we left off last for a couple days, just where the paint was good and hard, so when we flipped it over, we're not going to indent anything or mess up the paint that we'd already done. So flipped it over, got it up on the blocks of wood, and then I did the same thing. Concentrated on the forward-facing thin pieces. Hit them good, and as I'm hitting them, I'm slowly taking my spray pattern and bringing it down and down so that I'm hitting the top and then hitting the sides as well. And it's funny, like, to make a video spray painting something like this, but the reason why we did it is because it's actually a pain in the ass. You really have to think about what you're doing and systematically go from one section to the next. Otherwise, did I hit that one? I don't know. So what I did was, I did my tops that were, you know, facing this, you know, going in this direction. And then I came back and hit all my tops going in this direction. And then what I would do is I would go to the other side of the table. So the next coat, I would hit my tops going in this direction, but from this side, so that more of the paint is going on this. And then the same thing, I would do my lines that are going this way and move that way. And that way I got a good even coat on these sides as well. And then once everything had a good 2 or 3 coats, and I was doing light coats, good 2 or 3 coats, then I could pay attention to trying to get all of these flat pieces and getting a good coverage on it. Now, we used Eastwood's Extreme Chassis Black and Satin. It's a little shinier than I would have liked, but we're going to put it on like this, because once it's on and I got a good protective coating, my main thing was just to get a good protective coating on it. It looks fairly decent. We'll see what it looks like once it's on. You know, if we need to repaint it on the vehicle, it's really not that big of a deal. We could just mask off right behind it, around the bumper, and be able to spray it again if we wanted to put a textured coating, a bed liner type coating on it, or a more of a flat finish on it. I'm going to see how it goes. I also have a set of bumper bolts, so there's I have 4 holding the bumper on now, and the other 4 bolts I have I just put holes in a box here. You can see right here, holes in a box, shove the bolts in, and just gave a quick couple of coat dusting on the heads of those carriage bolts so that they match as well. We could always touch up pretty easily on the vehicle, like I said. Came out really nice. Let me give you a close-up of what it looks like. Kind of happy with the end result. Like I said, we just gave it a light sand and cleaning. Didn't really try to get all the character flaws that are in there, the little nicks and stuff. We left them all in there. I think it kind of completes the look. There's our box with our bumper bolts, the carriage bolts. We don't know if those carriage bolts are actually going to work in this application. Those are factory mounting bolts. I don't know if they're going to be long enough or if the carriage head is going to work on these oblong adjustment holes that are on this. If we need to go to the store when we mount it and get some regular hardware, we might have to do that. So all in all, it came out pretty good. I'm happy with it. Gonna wait till I have a couple sets of hands to get it mounted up on the truck, and we'll do that in another video. I don't want to, you know, try to muscle it myself or just with my wife or something. I'm gonna wait till I got a friend to come over, and we could sort of have 2 people holding it up, and then, you know, 1 person putting the bolts through so that everything is aligned right and we're not scratching everything up while we're installing it. But this is the CUCV or M1009 military style brush guard, grill guard, push bar, whatever you want to call it. I like it. I think it's going to round off the look of the truck really well. And as always, thank you for watching.